In our last session, we discussed a letter from a man who was tired of being around his grown son, who was acting like a victim, endlessly blaming everyone else for all the failures in his life. I suggested that he see why his son was acting like a victim, that he was responding to a lack of love in his life, and that this was certainly because he hadn't felt loved from childhood, in part by the father. Now, back to the writer of the letter. Why would a grown man blame everyone else in his life for all his mistakes? Because to him, the alternative is even worse. What if he blamed himself? What if he took responsibility himself for his mistakes? Then he'd feel absolutely worthless, and that would be intolerable. So, better to blame everyone else, even though it keeps him right where he is, because he doesn't see that his acting like a victim is what's keeping him where he is. Now, why does it bother you that he acts like a victim? One of the biggest reasons we hate to hear victims complain about everything is that we feel like they expect us to do something about their complaints. He tells you how lousy his life is, how unfair everybody is, and you feel like you have to have some kind of answer. And he does have expectations. He wants you to take his side when he complains about how his boss is unfair. When he complains about not having enough money, I'm sure he hopes you'll give him money. When he complains about how he's treated unfairly, I'm sure part of him expects, or at very least hopes, that you'll offer some solutions as to how he can make other people treat him better. The bottom line is that victims are whiny and unhappy, and they hope you'll make them feel better. And most of us don't like the burden of all that responsibility. We have enough going on in our own lives without other people intruding and demanding that we do even more for them. And that is exactly what your son is doing here with you. His every complaint is another demand, and you don't like it. So pay attention closely here. You don't have to do anything. Really, you don't. If you would understand only that, it would relieve you of a huge burden, and his whining would suddenly bother you 10 times less. When he complains, you have a choice. For example, you can stop your phone calls with him at any time. You might say, for example, that you have to go and do something else, which can always be true. You can do the same if you're in the same room with him. You can choose to listen to him. You can just listen. You don't have to fix his problems. You don't have to take sides with him against the rest of the world. You don't have to give him money. You don't have to rescue him or give him the answer to life's problems or anything else. On occasion, you might consider trying to teach him a word or two about true principles that might help him find happiness. The law of choice, for example. Let's say that he's attacking the behavior of another person. You might explain that other people do have the right to make their own choices as they learn from their mistakes. But if he resists your attempts at explanation, you don't have to continue. Drop it. In the same way, you might try occasionally to teach him other principles that might help him, but only if you choose. Through it all, love him as much as you can and when you can, not as much as he demands. And with that approach, you'll find a great freedom.